Welcome back.
We are back.
Woo!
Finally. It's been a few
Very
weeks.
exciting. Yeah, longer than I thought, actually. When I look back. Well, what's going on? We both had a lot going on, but I think you a lot more than me. So
yeah, so many directions to take this. So I'm back at work. PTO is over for now.
I didn't realize that.
So yeah, we have 12 weeks of PTO, and I'm splitting mine 7 and 5. So we just have to take it all within 1 year of the baby, or in our case, babies being born.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really good. So I got us through, the break where the big kids had no school and the holidays and all of that. And the big kids went back to school this week. And so I decided, all right, let's, go back to work this week. And then later on, I'll take the next 5. And that'll be good. So we made it through, we made it over the first hump, which is little kids are, I think they're sleeping like 4 to 5 hours a stretch right now. So no longer solid. Up. It's better. No longer up every 3 hours for an hour, which is just a beating.
How old are they now? How many weeks here?
So November 22nd is when they were born. So December 22nd. So not yet 2 months. So just maybe like 6 weeks
or 7 weeks. Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, so
that's huge though. From 0 to 6 weeks, they're totally different at 6 weeks than 0.
Yeah,
like they're much more real. Like they're solidifying.
Yeah, so we still have the night nurse coming maybe like 3 or 4 nights a week, and so we do get that kind of break every now and then. But when the night nurse isn't here, God, just twins are so different than having a singleton. I would imagine. I've never had a single baby, but twins are so different in that both parents are required every time the babies need to eat, and so there's no like I'll feed them at 3 o'clock and you feed them at 6 o'clock. It's we're both feeding at 12, 3, and 6. So having those hours get stretched out has been super duper helpful. Still brutal, still a kick in the face, but getting a lot better. So that much is good. Everybody's healthy, which is, that's the number one thing.
Most important.
Yes. Just a close second after that is Aaron tired. And it's like, I'm sleepy. So what's the deal there?
We've been loving these photos though, of you like sleeping in random places. Yeah, those have been keeping everyone quite entertained.
Yeah, that accidentally became a thing because I guess I've just fallen asleep a lot. Yeah, I think my wife finds it funny to take pictures of me, asleep at random places. And then the funniest one by far was when I fell asleep at the gym, and my sister-in-law was there, and she took the picture and texted it to Jennifer and said, "I think your husband's having a hard time."
She like come and do like just check you to see if you're alive. She's like,
she did. She scared the bejesus out of me because she woke me up. And I was, I had kind of like, I took my computer because I was like, I'm going to like freaking do some stuff, like free time, baby. And then I fell asleep. And so it was kind of accidental. And then I got woken up and I did the jump scare thing where I like woke up with a start.
I don't know if like first 6 weeks of I don't know if first 6 weeks of the new babies is peak, go back to the gym time, I think.
Oh no, I only went to the gym because they had childcare. So I wasn't planning on working out. I was like, maybe I'll work on my computer finally. Gotcha. Like I've got a free moment.
Like, there we go.
No, are you kidding me?
Just activity for the little kids.
No, I haven't worked out in years. Why start now?
Well, we talked about this, I think, like on one of the last podcasts. So I was wondering about that. But okay, it was just a nice, quiet-ish
It was
place
purely YMCA offers an hour and a half of childcare. So I took the big kids to the childcare there.
Right.
Yeah, and then, I fell asleep while feeding and fell asleep next to a crib and just all sorts of good, when you don't sleep, anywhere's a good place to sleep. Yeah. So, yeah, kids are good. Family's good. Life is good. Holidays were great. Yeah, we're making it.
All right. There we go. 4 kids. No biggie.
4 kids. A lot of kids. A lot of kids under 3, turns out.
I'm excited. Hopefully the podcast is still going when you get to 6. When you get the next round of twins, it's going to be very exciting.
No
See what car
way.
you acquire then.
No
To fit
freaking way.
everybody. It's gonna be awesome.
One of the things
Very
about
excited.
having like being a parent of multiples is people will stop you while you're out and about and be like, "Oh, I know somebody that," and so we've heard a couple stories, and one of them is somebody stopped us at a restaurant the other day and was like, are they all twins?" I'm like, "Yeah, they're all twins." She said, "I have friends that had twins and then got pregnant with quadruplets." So
What?
they had a set of
That's
2 and a set of 4,
insane.
and somebody stopped Jennifer, I
Wow.
think, at the hair salon, or no, because she didn't have the kids there. Maybe it was the grocery store, and said that they knew a family that had 2 sets of twins, and then a singleton, and then 2 more sets of twins. They
I
ended up
don't
with
know, man.
9 kids.
I don't know. I get the a lot of kids thing in the old days. It's like whatever, a couple are gonna die right off the bat. You have like a
Right, got a
farm or
farm,
whatever.
yeah.
Like, all right, yeah, whatever. The older ones are raising the younger ones. But in modern society, it's like, oh man, having like 6, 7 kids, all the
Can you
expectations on
imagine?
you as the parent, all the
No
expectations on the
freaking
kid,
way.
all the lack of expectations on the kids helping each other. Like, it's just a whole
No
different world that is
way.
just not set up for like you have
No.
6, 7, 8 kids. I don't know.
No,
And just doing
that's
anything in the
madness.
world, obviously impossible.
I'm
Um,
already nervous about like having enough quality time with 4 children.
yes, yeah,
And imagine there are 9 of them. It's like, I don't know how you get to know them each individually. So,
I don't
you know,
think, yeah,
we
so that's why
haven't.
it's a whole different thing, right? Like, I don't know if you do. I feel like you can't.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't feel like I get enough time with
yeah.
my 3. I'm like, how I don't even know them. How do I do? Like,
I
much
haven't
less
gone
having
to the
time.
doctor yet, but we're done at 4. That's
Right,
for sure. Yeah,
locking it up.
yeah, for sure.
Um, yeah, yeah. Well, oh, when you go out with all the kids, now do
Yeah.
you have a quad like stroller, or is it
No.
2 double strollers, or what's the play there?
I think in technical terms we would call that sharding. So
Okay.
each parent gets two kids. So we have 2 double strollers.
Okay.
Now,
So that's not too.
importantly, they're all interoperable. We have like a set of
Mm,
adapters that take um, that like, so we have a jogger and just like a more normal walking stroller, and we've bought adapters for the jogger that
right.
allow the big kids' seats to go on either stroller, and the little kids' car seats you can take directly out of the car and put on either stroller.
Pop them in.
Because
Okay.
you just can't afford to have individual strollers for every
Right.
set of twins. Everything has to be multi-purpose.
You got to be able to hot swap, right? Yeah. You
Yes.
don't want to have to move the special stroller around
No, no,
between
no, no, no.
cars or
So the
whatever,
mini,
stuff like that.
like,
Yeah.
and in the same way, car seats all have to be uniform. So in the minivan, we've
Right.
got 2 big kids and 2 little kids. In the au pair's car, we've got the 2 big kids, and in my 4Runner, we've got the 2 little kids. So no
Right. So you
matter
can.
who's going where, it's like, all right,
There's an
what
extra
car are you
car.
taking? Yeah, like
Yeah.
mom can take either set, dad can only take the youngest, Jasmine can only take the oldest. It's like, good Lord.
Man, when you get to switching out the car seats too, like when they
No,
expire and stuff like that, oh man, that's the
you want to
whole
talk about
scam there. The
scams?
expiring
Yeah,
car seats, some
yeah.
bullshit.
I think I got my hand slapped a little bit when my mother-in-law was like, the car seats expire, and I was like, car seats don't expire. And she was like, Aaron, yes they do. And I was like, oh, oops, sure, definitely they do. But wait, what do you freaking mean car seats
I don't know.
expire?
I don't buy it. I'm
It's
not buying
it's
it.
not a can of beans. It's
I mean,
plastic.
and it's not like it's getting thrown from the car and rolling on the ground. So, like, it should still be within the safety
Correct.
cage of the car. Like, I mean,
I'm
I
fine
don't know.
expiring a car seat once per catastrophic crash.
Sure,
I'm
I
fine
think
with
once
that.
you
Yeah.
crash, you should get rid of it. Yes,
Get a new
but
one.
like,
I'm fine with that.
when it crosses over the little stamped on date, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we're out of car seats, man. Wait till you're out of car
Man.
seats. You got a long way to go, but it's nice.
And then the whole like who's allowed to buckle the toddlers in, not just like based on the toddler's preference alone, like
right.
which parent is she going to say,
Yeah.
no, you have to buckle me in? And it's like, well, that person's not here right now.
Right.
That person's inside feeding other babies, so you get dad. That's all you get.
Yeah, when
anyway,
they get that opinionated age, it gets tricky.
Boy, don't they?
Yeah. All right, well, that all sounds good. Yeah, so that's all. I mean, I don't really have any news other than I was fixed my database issue, which we can talk about.
Yeah,
Thank
I want to talk
God.
about that for sure.
And then I just had a little round of COVID, so I'm just coming over that, but just about recovered. So yeah, so it actually kind of worked out, our little hiatus here anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, nothing too exciting. So we just jump into some stuff. I will apologize. I'm gonna apologize right off the top that there was like 5 or 6 people who emailed us, which we didn't get back to, and a lot of it's getting into old stuff. So we're clean slate in the email, but I did read
Oh
them all.
no, I didn't
Very
know
much
about
appreciate them.
Yeah, thanks for your
But
emails.
we're
Ian
gonna
is
go
the reason
forward.
you didn't get one back. I'm just finding out about it, so this is all on Ian.
Yes,
Thanks for your emails. Yeah.
Totally my fault. So but thank you very much. So all right, what should we start with? What do you want to do?
Let's start with we could either start with the new shed quarters or model should be strict. I think I'm primed on both of those.
Let's go model should be strict, and then we'll do shed quarters.
Love model should be strict. So hit us with your tweet.
Some technical.
Yeah.
So model should be strict, for those who don't know, is a Laravel configuration option that you can put in your app service provider that basically forces models a few different things on the models, forces them to not ever lazy load, and if you try to lazy load, it'll throw an error. And it also prevents you from accessing attributes that don't exist and setting attributes that don't exist on the models, and it'll throw an error, I believe, in those cases. And yeah, so to me, when starting a new project, I throw that in there because I'm not a lazy loading believer. I am very much anti the lazy loading. And so if you just have it in there from the start, I think that's perfect because you can just never do it. You're just going to get errors, and then you can fix those errors. Obviously, if you're going into existing application, that's a little different, and you might not be able to just throw that in on full strictness. But for a new app, I feel like strict is the way to go. And I know you said you had some nuanced thoughts here, so I will be excited
Love the
to
nuance.
hear these.
The nuance.
All right.
Okay, so you tweeted a picture of your app service provider, which was interesting. I liked that. I want to see more people's app service providers.
Not many people. Come on, people, get out there, find my tweet, and post your app service provider. There's all kinds of fun stuff in the app service provider.
There really is. So you posted model should be strict as enabled. Model should be strict does accept an argument, and you can set that to like basically is the app running locally, and so you can say when I'm local, let it be strict or make it strict, and when I'm in production, we'll let it be looser. So model should be strict wraps up 3 different static flags, I guess, static pieces of configuration. Model prevent lazy loading, and then prevent silently discarding attributes, and prevent accessing missing attributes. And so my nuance is, I think some of those should be enabled in production and some of them shouldn't. So I don't think...
You can individually do them too.
You can individually do it. And so I don't think model should be strict. I don't think it should be used, frankly. So here's my here's my opinion. Hot take. So I think the difference is preventing lazy loading is primarily an application performance issue, right? So if basically prevent lazy loading is like protecting you from an N+1 thing, and if you have an N+1 in production, it's like that's not great, but it's not technically wrong. You should fix it, but your application still works. Your users don't get errors. Everything is still like technically correct, right?
Potentially, yes.
No, definitely. Why potentially?
Well, because I mean, it can be so slow that it doesn't work, or it takes 20 seconds to load, or whatever. Like there. But yes, in your most general use case, that's
within the bounds of normal distribution. It's still going to work. It's just going to be slow, right?
Yeah.
So that's primarily an application performance concern. However, prevent silently discarding attributes and prevent accessing missing attributes are totally application correctness concerns.
Right.
So
those are bug
those are behavior will go wrong potentially in a catastrophic way. And so I think the one that's easiest to illustrate is the prevent accessing missing attributes. And this is, I feel like Taylor regrets putting this one in because it's been removed from the docs and it's kind of hard to find anything about. And it caused a lot of problems with like first party packages. because we're doing some accessing of
Right. They
missing
just
attributes.
assume it's there, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so what this method does is, like, if you partially hydrate your model, so let's say your database table's like 150 columns wide, which can happen, if you've been running an app for 20 years, it can happen. And you're like, actually, I only need these 4 columns from my users table. And you pull those 4 columns back, and like those 4 columns are first name, last name, email, and is admin or whatever. And then in your application, you try to go access like a column that you didn't pull back from the database. Laravel's not going to tell you, hey, you didn't pull it back. It's just going to say, oh, that value's null.
Right.
And so to prevent that behavior, you turn this method on. And if you accidentally don't pull back the column that it says like is blocked or something, and then you go check to see, is this user blocked? And it says, well, I don't know. It's null, so they must not be blocked. That's a total application correctness problem. And that's a big, big deal. And I think people are like, I don't want to throw an error in production if I access a missing attribute. And I'm like, yeah, you absolutely do, because that's a catastrophic failure if your if statement is checking for something that you didn't even pull out of the database.
Right.
And so I think those two prevent silently discarding. And that's where you're like, hey, I'm going to set is admin, but I'm accidentally going to typo it. And Laravel's just going to say, oh, that column doesn't exist. I'll just silently discard that. It's like, no, you don't want to do that either.
Right.
So I think prevent silently discarding and prevent accessing missing attributes are application correctness and can totally hose you. So those need to be on in production. And then prevent lazy loading is like a performance thing. And that should be off in production. Because if one sneaks through, it's not a bad thing. And you can also log, if you turn it off, you can log missed lazy loads, or like when a lazy load violation occurs, you can log it. And so you still get the benefit of like it showing up in the logs in production in this weird dark corner that you didn't test locally. So you're not missing the information, you're just not blowing up your application without need. So that's my nuance. What do you think?
It is a weird grouping, probably, to some degree. Like this flag handling all 3 of those is maybe a little bit weird because they're not related really. So that is true. I don't know. I think I mean, I don't really have a hard disagree with you there. Definitely existing projects, you can't do the strict lazy loading thing.
I think that's production. A good nuance too.
But that's for sure. But I just feel like from a new project, I just feel like it's very I'd rather just have it on in the beginning. How am I going to miss a corner? It's going to be very hard for me to miss a corner if I have it on from the beginning. Unless I just write some code that's like buried in a bunch of ifs and somehow I never get down to it or whatever.
Never run it locally.
Somehow I never run it, even when I'm building the feature. Like it somehow gets through. But so I don't know. I feel like if you're starting fresh, it's
dynamic loading of relations that could happen.
Yeah, potentially. And then I guess there is some nuances here of like, is this a worthwhile thing to be worried about, right? For most people, probably not necessarily. If you're just building like a side project thing and like or even an internal app where the load and such is not significant. I think in my case where I'm doing this kind of next generation help spot, I know a lot about the load characteristics. I know a lot about how many customers we have and how much it's going to have to deal with. And so I'm being quite parsnickety about performance. And so I definitely don't want any lazy loading. But this is how, so here's a little side quest based on what you brought up, which I think is quite interesting. What's your thoughts on defining the select and what you return versus just letting eloquent star all always? And I don't know, what do you think about that?
I think in 98% of use cases, you should just run user where get and not muck around with the select at all. Honestly, like, and this is where I straddle, like, actually, this is where I'm an application developer and not a DBA, which is weird because I work at a database company and teach for the database company, but I'm not a DBA. And I think that gives me a superpower that most people in the world aren't DBAs. And I don't like, I don't get lost in the weeds. All DBAs will say, don't ever use select star, only select what you need.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, I mean, yeah, like, don't we have more important stuff to worry about? Like, I don't super care about that. I think the difference is in the case where you do end up with a really wide table that does have a lot of blobby columns. So you've got
Right.
like a bio and a, last whatever that's 50,000 characters and all of this stuff, or a JSON column that's a megabyte.
Right.
It's
The
like,
JSON columns are big. Now that everybody uses JSON columns, that's a lot
get
of
really
that's
bad.
more data,
Yes.
than people
And
expect.
the problem is not even, or rather it's not only pulling the data back over the wire, it's also the database, at least MySQL, puts those really big blobby columns in a different spot logically.
Right.
And so like the row can only be so big in MySQL. And so if the column gets too big, that column is like reduced to a pointer and the big blobby stuff is stored elsewhere.
Yep.
And so my point of view is, if you're doing just like a CRUD app with normal stuff, just don't even think about changing the select, because you do end up getting hosed potentially. But if you have a long running app with huge tables and blobby columns and you're like, man, I only need the first name and the email here, what am I doing? Definitely change it. And then you must turn on prevent silent accessing missing, for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not a purist on select star at all by any means.
Yeah, I'm sort of like on small things where it's a minor difference. Like, yeah, you're returning the created at timestamp, you're not going to use it, whatever.
Exactly.
I'm not going to worry about it too much. But like for the main tables that are getting tons of action, I do return it. And then this is really only for HelpSpot. Like in other smaller things I built, I don't worry about it, and I just star all. Who cares? But for something where I know there's just gonna be tremendous performance implications, like it actually does add up when you're running hundreds of millions of queries. Like,
oh yeah,
because the network latency is always the worst part of the database lookup.
Yep.
And like you said, the disks, and then if you're on cloud infrastructure where the disk isn't your nice fast super on the server SSD, but it's a network hop of its own away from the server. So now you're going to the disk, and then you got to go to the special spot to get the blob and the whole thing. Like,
and if
so
your
it actually does add up.
If your database is 10 milliseconds away from your app server, and now or
so all of a sudden you're at 30
like,
milliseconds, 40 milliseconds for the one query, and now you've got more queries,
and you're throwing this huge amount of data across a longer wire because it's not on the same box. It's like, there's you got to decide, is it worth it for you?
Yeah, so there's, I think, some use cases where it's important to think about, and I think people don't ever think about it now.
Nobody,
like it just never comes up, right?
No,
it's like nothing ever talks about that anywhere.
Yeah.
And obviously for like 95% of the time, it's you probably don't need to worry about it. But I think it is important to be aware of and think about at least that key queries in your application where they're going to get run a ton, where they're already maybe heavy, and things like that. Like, do you actually need to return those 4 JSON columns every time that you're not even using, and things like that?
Another factor is like how large is the result set. If you're returning 2 rows every time, it's like, who cares? If you're returning 3,500 rows, because you have to do some sort of post result aggregation on the app side or something, and you're just gonna ditch 3,500, you're just gonna ditch like 30 meg of JSON once you get it back. It's like, what are you doing? So
those things add up. So, all right, I think we're mostly on the same page there.
I think while we're here talking about your app service provider, you have a morph map set up.
Yes.
Love a morph map.
You have to have a morph map. See, this is
gotta have a morph map.
Without the morph map, it's chaos. Without the morph map,
I will say, if we're persnicketing, I would love to see you use enforce morph map.
I wanted. I don't know why I didn't do that. I think I had a reason, but now I don't know what it is. So I should switch it to enforce morph map. I think I do want it enforced. I want it enforced. I think there was a weird.
We need it enforced.
I want to say I always feel like there was some kind of bug I hit or something weird like that, but maybe I have to go back and look at it. But I do want it to be enforced. Yes, I don't ever want to accidentally shove in a whole class.
And then have to undo that somehow. So for the edification of the listener, the morph map is when you have like a polymorphic relationship, and by default, Laravel will put the fully qualified namespace in the database. So you'll look in your database and be like, what does this image belong to? And it'll say like app models comment, app models blog post. And you're like, man, guess I can't refactor those class names anymore because it's now, it's now hard coded in my database. And so the morph map will say, hey, instead of putting the fully qualified class name in there, why don't you just put the word image or the word comment? And then you're free. You've now broken that association. You're free to like change it. Enforce morph map says, hey, if I don't have a map for this model, I'm not going to just fall back to putting the fully qualified class name in. I'm actually going to throw an exception and you're hosed. And that's what you want for sure. That is 100% what you want. Yeah.
And then there is another element, since we're on our performance kick. If you use the morph map, then you can potentially store that in a defined length character column, like maybe 8 characters or something, as opposed to just a varchar. And then again, it'll stay on the page in the database, so it doesn't have to make a separate call out over to the blobby area where it just shoves random strings. And so that then will increase your performance on those queries too. And again, if it's like in a high performance location, where you're going to have a billion rows or whatever, like having only 8 characters there instead of undefined long characters that it always has to go grab actually adds up. So
okay, while we're just batting back and forth, let's volley away. I enforce morph maps with tiny integers, unsigned tiny ints.
I like your style, sir. I like your style.
So I map, app models comment to the number 1. App
maybe I should
blog
do that.
post to the number 2. Then what that also, so everything you said is correct. Also, additionally, you get smaller indexes, because the whole point is Laravel is going to put an index over the type and the ID. And you want your indexes to be as small as possible, so you get more and more and more into memory as possible. And so if you have a tiny integer that ranges from 0 to 255, which means you can have 255 models, which you will never have, you can fit all of that in an even more compact index. So enforce morph map with an integer instead, and you may see potentially microseconds of improvement, and you will.
But so think about this though. People don't realize that a tiny integer is a single byte. Okay, and even a 8 character long column is 8 times 4, so 32 bytes, and then usually an extra for something else, overhead or something. So like 34, 35 bytes versus 1.
Versus 1, yes.
35 times bigger to have that string, and that's 35 times more data in your indexes and everywhere else. So
should be in memory where
which you want them in the buffer pool if you're in MySQL land.
Does matter, yes. So I'm not talking about saving disk. Yeah, I'm talking about memory.
Very, very important to have everything, all the indexes at least, fit in the buffer pool.
Yes.
And then so this is I go back and forth on this. I'm gonna throw one back over the net.
We're volleying ping pong. Let's go.
Right along these lines. So I'm a huge fan of the enums. I love the new PHP enum stuff. Like, it's so good. I have enums everywhere. And it's like, do I want? They're all backed because they all have to go to the database.
Got to be backed. Yep.
But are they backed to a number, or are they backed to a string? The numbers saved. I mean, just tons of bytes saved. Especially in like the main table has like a whole bunch of things that are enums. And it could be a tiny int, and it would be 1 little byte. Or it's going to be, but obviously it hurts the readability in some places sometimes to have it that way. I don't know. What are you thinking? Right now I have them as string backed, but I'm teetering. I'm probably going to move it to integer back because it's so much more efficient. But
I think my first thought is I've never in my life heard it called an enum.
Oh, really?
I don't know that I've ever said
it out
loud.
What's the official? I don't know if I've ever said it.
No, in my head, I'm just now realizing.
What's it in your head?
Know that I've enum.
An enum.
Enum.
Is it an enum?
So I put it on the E, and you put it on the noom. So I'm enum, and you're enum.
All right, people will have to tell us. That's comment down below. Subscribe and comment, and when you do, let us know.
boost that engagement. Tell me what it is. Okay, so
I know you were distracted now. You have no idea what I even said.
I don't know. It's great. Enums are awesome. Next topic. Okay, so I think it's a trade-off. So for the user who is listening, only talking about PHP enums. I don't
Right.
use database enums
No.
because I find them annoying.
Not a believer.
Not a believer. They actually, the database enums solve this problem in that you get the readability of the string, but
Oh, and
the
it
underlying
manages it.
storage is actually an integer. But the huge
Ooh,
drawback is you have to alter the
interesting.
table
Right.
to
To
add a
change
new
it.
option, which is
Yeah.
like one
Kind of
freaking
bummer.
waste.
Yeah.
So I think I personally prefer shoving it all in there as an integer and dealing with the readability thing. But that's just so personal because I'm not like if I'm I don't code at PlanetScale, so I don't have to. I'm not on a team. Anytime I'm doing stuff like this, I'm just doing it myself, and I don't have a huge habit of like doing a lot of reporting or an analytics analysis. That's the word, analysis. Just like from Table Plus, right? And so if I were doing a ton of raw SQL analysis and I'm always like, well, like what does 1 mean here and what does 2 mean there, I would get probably frustrated, but most of the time it's the application that's talking to it, and so I don't super care.
Yeah. I mean, we're not in the database that much, sometimes you're in there to help a customer with something or whatever, but most of the time, and even that oftentimes there's like some admin panel or whatever you're interacting with, so it still doesn't matter. And it's just so huge because it's like if you have 5 of those columns and each one's taking 40 bytes when they could take 5 bytes, so you have 200 bytes instead of 5. That's a lot of memory, and memory is expensive. Nothing. That's what you're paying for. That's the big dollars is to get the memory.
Yep. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if at this point it's worth it, but you could do a strict 4-character column with a char set or char set or car set that is that is less expensive than UTF-8 multi-byte, because those are 4 bytes per character. But there are some that are 3, maybe 2.
I think with single store it's all UTF-8, but maybe in MySQL it's not. I don't recall.
Correct.
Yeah, I guess you can change a car set, but can you change a car set on just a column? I guess you can.
Because you could have a binary. You could have a binary car set on a column, and that's just raw bytes.
You could also get into like flipping flags on bit columns or whatever. I don't know how any of that stuff works. That stuff is all. It's too much.
I got a video on that. Go to PlanetScale channel. I got a video on storing flags in a single integer column using bit masks. Totally unhinged, completely unreadable. You want to talk about unreadable?
Yeah,
when you go to a column and you look at it and it says 17, and the row below it says 16, and the row below that says like what's another one, 9, and you're like, what do any of these numbers mean?
Means nothing.
That's really interesting. So yeah, the PlanetScale channel has a video on that I find very interesting and probably a bad idea. Was my conclusion on it.
That might be a step too far in the maximum efficiency
I think it is
direction.
If you're doing that, you better have a good reason.
Right.
And at that point, I'm just trusting that like you know exactly what you're doing because you're reaching for a really esoteric solution.
Right. Yeah. You're at some very crazy scale where you're trying to eke out every little minutia ounce of performance.
Exactly.
So I'm not all the way to that. All right, shed quarters. If we don't have another database column back and forth here.
Shed quarters.
All right, shed quarters. Let's do it.
Ian, 4 kids.
Yes.
It's a lot of kids.
Yes.
It's too many.
It's a lot of kids.
Too many. It's just enough. It's just enough, but it's too many.
It's a good amount, yeah.
So, when we found out we were having another set of twins, we moved out of the house, sold the house, to which the shed quarters had become fundamentally attached, right? There's a world in which I move it, but I think we got more value from selling it than we did I would ever get from moving it.
Yeah.
So we moved into the rental where we currently live right now. And I am in a 9x9 room that directly through these glass doors is
I made that mistake too. Room. Glass doors. Terrible idea.
So it's like our single... We don't have like a formal dining and a normal dining. We're not the Vanderbilts.
The more modern
one
style.
Dining room. Right. So the kids sit right there, when they're eating, and they're, screaming at the toys and stuff like that. It's like
not optimal.
Not optimal. And now there's 2 more of them that, she's out here in the living room feeding, and I don't want to be like, hey, you got to go in the back where it's, darks because I'm working out here. It's like, no, that's what a horrible life.
Let me interject here for 1 second. So when we started HelpSpot in the company, we had a condo. We had no kids. and it was a 2-level, nice little condo. And my office was like in the dining room. So it was like a desk in the dining room and then the little 4 like dining room table thing. And we had our first kid, and Jamie would be in the living room, which was right next to all this, like playing with the kid, doing whatever. And then if I had a phone call, because I was just doing support too, and I was answering the phone. And we'd have this thing where I don't know how we got calling it this, but we started calling it illegitimate family. And so I'd be like, illegitimate family. And she'd be like, okay, she'd scoop up the kid and like run upstairs to like the farthest away bedroom so that like he's crying and yelling or whatever. And I'm like, I'm on the phone. And this is all like a million years before COVID and everybody works from home and you just expect people have people in the background. Like, you know, it's like a business. I'm being formal and businessy, right? And it's like, no, we gotta like run away with the child because there's like not enough room in this place to have separate
illegitimate
zones.
family, hysterical.
Illegitimate family. Yeah, it was very funny. Anyway, continue on. So you got glass doors.
Yeah, glass doors. I've done the best I can
people
with
yelling,
treatment. People yelling, people screaming. Also, like it's very, very nice to be able to walk out and like say hi to kids and play and laugh. But they're also the big ones are getting to the age where it's like, oh, dad's out. Come jump on the bed with us. And I'm like, I can't do that right now.
Yeah, then that's its own issue. Yeah.
Yeah, and that like, yeah. So, Jennifer and I started talking, and I was like, I don't think I can work in the house anymore. And she was like, I think it would probably be better for you to not, because part of the problem is if I'm going to record videos, my windows are so small, like while they're napping, if they nap, and then at night. And a lot of it, frankly, has become record at night. And that's just, I don't have the same energy to do that now that I have these other 2 that I'm feeding at night, right?
Yeah.
So I got to get my work done during the day like a normal person. And so I started thinking like, why, what could I do here? Like, what are the common solutions? Like, what is common to man? I would go get an office, right? That is very normal. I would be so boring if I did that, right? So I went and looked at a few offices and emailed some people. Office space is expensive. Yeah, it's very,
have like
very
co-working
expensive
nearby, or like sometimes
so there's
office in the co-working.
Yeah, there's co-working, and there are offices in co-working. Though. The problem is, I need a lot of space, right? Because I've got to set up cameras, and I've got to set up lights, and I've got a bunch of very expensive equipment that I need to keep in this place, and so that's an issue on its own. And so I'm emailing like Regis is the big like rent your own office kind of conglomerate, and they're like, you need an office for one person? Great, we have an 8x10 office. I'm like, no, that's what I'm in now, and I'm barely making it. Tell me what a 10x20 is. And they're like, oh, so you want 6 desks in there? I'm like, what? No. And of course, they price it out for a company that's trying to house 6 people. So I'm like, this is stupid. I don't need to do this. I'm a very creative person. So I started looking at apartments.
I would have thought that. I started
looking at apartments nearby our house. So the closest office was like 15 to 20, 25 minutes away. Very expensive. The closest apartments, Ian, are 3 minutes from our house. Literally, 3 minutes.
Cow.
Dallas is blessed or cursed with an abundance of apartments. We got apartments everywhere.
It's like a little, what do they call this? It's like Pierre de Tete or whatever. It's like when you have your house in the city and your house.
I don't know what that means, but I think that is actually exactly what it's called. And so I went and toured a bunch of apartments, and I was like, hey, apartment guy, here's the deal. I want a studio apartment because I'm not gonna live here, man. Yeah. And he was like, what do you mean you're not gonna live here? I'm like, I'm
gonna be the best neighbor ever.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna be here from 9 to 5 when everyone is gone, and then when everyone's home, I'm gone. So I told him like, hey, I'll make a lot of YouTube videos. I have, a full-time job. It's not like I'm going to be bringing, I'm not going to be holding meetings here. It's literally just me, but I need a big space, a safe space. I need like a place where I can set everything up and leave it. And so I toured maybe 6 different apartment complexes.
Interesting.
And I signed a lease for an apartment. I've got an apartment now.
I love that a huge upside though is like you got your own kitchen, you got your own bathroom, like, dude, it's very nice.
Yes. Yes.
versus
So
the co-working.
the apartment, and I'm gonna tweet this today, and so by the time people are hearing this, hopefully they've seen it on Twitter. The apartment is going to be called the PlanetScale Studios. So
Oh, there we go.
it's gonna be a permanent video setup in. So this is actually a 1-bedroom, because at this complex it was cheaper to do a 1-bedroom than the studio at the other complex, and I was like, what do I care? I just want the cheaper one.
Yeah.
So it is a 1-bedroom, and so I'm gonna set up all the lights, and I got a new camera. I got some different lights.
Ooh,
I'm like
what camera?
upping the production
We
quality.
gotta talk about that.
I got a Canon R6.
No
behind
Sony?
me.
You didn't go Sony?
No, I'm staying Canon family.
Oh, man.
So new camera, bigger lights, better desk,
Nice.
better backdrop. So I'm
You gonna
upping
set
the whole
bed? You gotta set the bed.
There's no bed. I'm not gonna have a bed.
You gotta have a bed.
No, there's no bed.
You got a bedroom. The bedroom is for the bed.
No,
you
the
guys are
bedroom
gonna
is
need
for
it.
the studio.
This way, either one of you could go bail and crash at this place and get a little rest time.
That's actually one of the rules. Is she was like, I think this is a great idea. You can't leave me alone and go nap. And I was like, yeah,
well, she can be the one who goes and be's alone.
Okay, we'll talk about potentially a nap couch. There's no room for a bed. The whole
in the living room?
I don't know. Second set or something. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Set. Oh man!
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. We're doing a whole thing. So
all right.
At the PlanetScale Studios, I'm gonna.
Is this corporate sponsored here? Is this like official or is it semi-official?
This is official. This is the official PlanetScale Studios.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah,
I like it.
And so I'm building out a new set. And I'm gonna set. I'm gonna like try to hang the lights from the ceiling. It's gonna be kind of fun because like you can't really do a lot in an apartment. Like you're not allowed to like totally screw stuff to the wall.
Right.
So it's going to be a fun project. But so benefits are, it's going to be so quiet. It's going to be so quiet. Everybody's at work during the day. I'm going to be at the apartment during the day. The good news is I was completely forthright with the leasing agent, and he was like, "Yeah, that's fine. I don't care. Like you're going to be a good tenant. That's fine." In the lease, it says you can like perform business out of there, provided it is like a work from home business and you're not having people come. And I imagine they added that once COVID hit. That was like, yeah, you all work from home.
Right.
So I'm well within my lease rights. It's going to be very quiet. And then I've got my own bathroom. I've got my own kitchen. And so this is going to unlock a new vector for healthy living for me, because I tweeted about it, but I've been in a lot of physical pain recently, which we can talk about later. But this is going to be like, okay, instead of leaving the house every day because you want to get out of the freaking house and going to pick up Chipotle, Chick-fil-A, McDonald's just because you need an excuse to get out,
right? You
can make lunches in the quiet kitchen where you're not feeling like I've got to get out of this house.
Yeah.
And so for a future show, I'm going to be a smoothie guy. I'm becoming smoothie guy.
I've done some rounds on the smoothie front.
I eat kind of like, if you have a 12-year-old nephew, that's basically how I eat. Like I kind of just want a hamburger or some chicken, some chicken nuggets, like maybe some pizza. That's basically what I want to eat all the time.
Probably not optimal.
Like you give me an avocado and I'm like, I'm not touching that. Can you send it back? I got some avocado on my quesadilla. Can you send it back? Yeah. And so, I've started doing these smoothies over the break as a way to like hopefully change my diet a little bit to decrease maybe pain and inflammation a little bit. Ian, you can put anything in a smoothie.
In there.
You can put anything in there.
Spinach. Always put spinach is just baseline.
Spinach, avocado,
all kinds of stuff.
All kinds of random crap. Yep. You can just like put it in there, and you put a glob of peanut butter, and you're like, peanut butter smoothie.
You can.
It all just goes away.
You do have to be a little bit careful if you have a weight loss goal. I don't know if you have a weight loss goal, but if you have a weight loss goal, you can make a smoothie that's like 1,500 calories,
overdo it.
and you're still hungry at the end. You're like, okay, I had the smoothie because like once you put a bunch of peanut butter and avocado and this and that, like it's like super calorie filled. But I love smoothies. They're awesome. Get some good protein powder. I like the naked protein powder.
I think we actually got that.
Good.
Yeah, I got some unflavored protein powder for it. My wife has been running the show on that. She's the boss, and she just like hands me a smoothie, and I'm like, "What's in here?" And she just drink it, and it's great. And I love it.
I like smoothies a lot.
That's gonna open up because I'm gonna have a refrigerator there. What am I gonna put in? I'm just gonna put bags of frozen fruits and veggies in the in the
Yeah,
freezer. It's
that's
gonna be awesome.
perfect. So it can just sit there, it doesn't go bad and all that stuff. You just
Exactly.
need like some milk or almond milk or whatever you're gonna put as
Yep.
the liquid, and that's it. Or water
Yep.
even. So
And then this is this is just I'm blowing my own mind here. Apartments have gyms.
oh, free gym membership.
Apartments have gyms.
Genius.
I'm just gonna be able to walk downstairs. So I'm gonna take 10 minutes to make a smoothie at lunch. What if I take another 20 to walk downstairs, do a little bit of workout, come back, crush some videos?
I think you should.
How's that
I think
sound?
you should absolutely try to take lunch. I think taking lunch is underrated. Take lunch because you're gonna work. I know at least that you have been doing this. I assume you're gonna continue somewhat. Like you're working at night. You're
Yeah.
working after the kids go to bed, right? So like
Yeah.
when you work straight through and you don't even take lunch, and then like you get your couple hours at home with the kids, and then you go back to work after everybody's sleeping.
Yeah.
Like that lunch break is kind of huge. So like if
I've
you
been
get
pretty
some
bad
exercise
about
in
that.
it, like even just a walk, like the apartment complex it would be a good place just to even walk. Like just literally take your smoothie and like go walk around the complex like for 30 minutes, listen to an audiobook or whatever.
That's
podcast.
a great point. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would try to fit some of that stuff in, but yeah, I love this plan.
And it's cheaper than the Office quotes that I got. It's cheaper, all of these amenities, and it's cheaper than getting an office in some boring, soul-sucking building.
Yeah, I don't think you'd want to be on office on your own. I like my setup here is nice because I have my cousin and my brother, so it's like some human interaction. But just to get an office where you're just straight by yourself, I think is pointless. In a co-working space is at least adds a little human interaction, which is probably good. But at the same time, you're at a point where like your time for human interaction right now is limited in terms of like making new friends and stuff like that. So I'm probably not
been
optimal
years since
right
I've made a new friend. What do I need a new friend for?
So it's probably not a huge concern right now. So no, what's your plan going to be? Are you trying to go there all day? Are you going to do half days?
No, it's all day.
Okay, all day.
Yeah, this is like I leave the house to go to work like it's the 1950s. Yeah.
Okay. What I guess you still have the au pair at home, right? During the day.
We do, correct.
Okay,
yes.
so that's good.
Yeah.
So you have there's some help there, and you're only 3 minutes away if you needed to.
I'm only 3 minutes away, provided everything
help out
melts
with something
down. Yes,
or whatever.
totally.
Yeah, come back
and
for
maybe
lunch.
maybe I do come home for lunch. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's a huge thing too. Like eating at home is always better. But it's so tough. I'm a big eat out guy too, but
Love
eating
to
at
eat
home,
out.
you're always better when you're eating at home.
Yes,
it's always just
for sure.
better in every way. I like this plan. I think people are going to be surprised. So
I think so. I'm so excited. It is just like it's just got my name all over it. It's just like weird enough that people are like, "What are you're doing what, man?"
Right.
But it's just like it's gigabrain. It's like, oh, dude. And we didn't even cover the last amenity. Apartments have pools.
Oh, yes, that's true. You could bring your crew there and boom,
I could bring
time.
my crew there in the summer.
I love this idea.
I basically just got a country club membership.
I was just gonna say it's a country club. Yeah. I like this.
Like if I were a wealthy man, I would have an office and be a member of a country club. Instead, I have an apartment.
But it's just as good. It's better.
It's just as good.
At a country club, you don't have a private area all to yourself anywhere.
I know.
In the locker room or whatever. Like
I know.
This is like you got your own space here. So man, very excited to hear about this.
I kind of freaked out and was like, I got to get out of here. I'm going to go look at offices. Was disappointed by the price and the benefits, and then was driving home and thought, oh, there's 6 apartment complexes right there. I wonder what I can pull off there. And it was cheaper. So
do you have it? Are you in or are you not in yet?
The lease has started. After we get off this call, I'm going to get the keys.
Oh, man. Wow.
Today is literally the day. Yeah.
We're going to have update images.
Oh, there's going to be so many updates. There's going to be so many pictures. It's going to be great.
I wasn't
in the
awesome. Aaron Francis fan club for the original Shed Quarters build out.
For the Shed Quarters
era? I'm excited to get to experience this now.
Baby, it's such good content.
Everybody loves the home office. People love a good home office story.
Yes, and it's going to be great. It's going to be great for PlanetScale because it's literally going to be, when I announced it on Twitter, this is the new PlanetScale Studios. It's like, how cool is that?
Oh, you know what you need to get since you have corporate sponsorship? You need to get one of those custom like LED neon light things, like the
We're doing
PlanetScale
it.
Studios or something. Okay, yeah.
We're
You
doing
gotta
it.
have that.
Yep.
Yeah, I love it. It's gonna
Yep,
be awesome.
we're doing it, and that's going to be an ever-present fixture in the backdrop. Is a
Right.
custom PlanetScale LED.
I love
It's
it.
so cool.
That's gonna be sweet.
I'm so freaking pumped.
I like this.
Yeah.
This is great news.
Isn't this wild? What did you
Yeah.
expect? Did you expect apartment?
No. I figured I wasn't sure. You seemed tricky about the talking about it, right? So I was like, well, it can't just be like, I know you're renting, so you're not gonna build something. Like maybe it's like a RV that you're gonna park back there or something. But that's not really great for the video unless you really got. I mean, some probably would work, but I don't know.
That'd
like
be expensive, but that would be hysterical.
Or some kind of like trailer that you can like move more easily,
totally.
or with the idea that you're gonna move it, or but yeah, apartment. I like this. This is way better. I think you nailed it. This seems optimal. Hopefully you have a good neighbor and not some crazy neighbor.
I know. But, hopefully I don't have a neighbor that's also home from 9 to 5.
Yeah, or they're loud or something during the day. Yeah, something. Or they have 6 kids and the walls are thin.
Exactly.
So there's a few risks here.
There are definitely a few risks.
But I think it should be fine.
When I told a few of my friends I was doing this, they were like, "Dude, have you ever been to an apartment? It's so loud." And I was like, "Okay, so hang on. First of all, this is it's a good apartment complex.
Right.
Like, it's not the cheapest one in Dallas for sure.
Right.
Also, I think I'm basically working the reverse schedule as everyone else. So my understanding or my guess is that the frustration with apartments being loud is at night when people are watching TV and screaming at the TV, or on the weekends when they're at the pool dorking around and listening to music of the youths, right?
Yeah.
And so I just don't think I'll be there during those times. So that's my hope.
Yeah.
I could be proven hysterically wrong, and that would make
good
content.
Kids would be a huge one too, but you're definitely most of the year will have kids should hopefully be in school, and so that shouldn't be too much of an issue other than maybe summertime or whatever. So
yes, totally.
Yeah, I think the risks are low.
Yeah. So
all right, I like it.
So exciting. So yeah, look forward. You, Ian, look forward to a tweet. Everyone else, hopefully you saw my tweet by the time you hear this.
All right. So then during our hiatus here, you also said you're doing a static site package. Like, what the hell is going on? Are you doing more stuff?
Don't bring those curse words at me. You're so frustrated. What the hell? So here's the deal. I was on.
Come on. How much stuff can you do?
No, not too much. Not enough. I was on what's it called? Over-engineered with boss man Chris.
I didn't listen to that. I should listen to it.
How did you know that I was doing this then?
Well, I think I saw it on Twitter. Yeah.
Oh man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. It's really not. One is it hasn't even been started. Besides, like coming up with a dope name for it that I can't share now.
Oh boy.
So a dope name and some branding, and the idea here is that like. I think I can offer a way to build static sites with vanilla native full-on Laravel, and then have like really strong first-party integrations to the static site hosts, such that you're like, all right, I built my site. Now I want to run it on Netlify, and you can just say deploy Netlify, and it'll handle like setting up redirects based on how the Netlify platform works. Maybe that's middleware, maybe that's a configuration file, maybe that's edge middleware, setting up like OG images and syntax highlighting and getting it all deployed, that kind of stuff, and like having it as a GitHub action as well. And so it's really not something like Nuxt or Next where it's this huge framework on its own. It's kind of this package that's like, hey, build out everything you want with, route model binding, and then we will figure out all of the final URLs, and we'll construct a package that is conforming to any of these, 10 different first-party static site hosts, from GitHub pages to Cloudflare pages to Netlify to Vercel. And then we'll just push it out there. And here's a GitHub action to do it. So it's not huge. I think it is pretty cool. And we'll see when it gets done.
Could be something that goes back burner. I could foresee.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. And could be something that's like, basically I build it and use it myself. And then that's how anything ever gets pushed on it, is like, I need this now. And I'll build that out myself too. I know you have so many problems with my static site that you're like, I don't think this is a good idea, but I think it's a great idea.
No, I don't think that. I don't know if it's a good idea from your time perspective. Like, I don't know if this like pushes screencasting forward. Does it push the YouTube channel forward? Like,
Probably
whatever.
not.
Those
I
type
think
of
it will
things,
help. That's one of the things I'm discovering about making YouTube videos is I need to, personally, I feel like I need to have real projects from which to pull interesting tidbits.
Gives you something to do.
Yeah, and so this is like a content muse kind of. So we'll see. Like I said,
I feel like you need to pick a database project. Then you need some kind of heavy database thing.
Well, yeah, for the PlanetScale side,
right,
yes,
yeah,
but for the personal side, I need some Laravel stuff.
It doesn't matter as much. Yeah.
So yeah, so like I said, I haven't actually started on it, but it's cool, and I've got a great name for it. It's kicking around.
Great name is important. You got the good domain. You got the good name.
Yep.
That's you're halfway there.
I'm halfway there. So look for it in 2025.
All right. So the other item we had on the list was my database woes of the MySQL and out of control memory and all that stuff.
Yeah, and it sounds like you cracked it.
8 weeks of that or 7 weeks of that or whatever. Freaking insanity. This is the sad part of SaaS where you think it's all happy and fun. It's not happy to babysit a database server for 2 months. But we are over it. We figured it out. It was basically, we're going to get super esoteric, but there's this thing called table open cache.
I've never heard of this in my life.
So there's table open cache, which is how many tables you can put in the cache when like the table definitions the database system stores.
Okay.
And then you can have a set number of instances of that cache. And the recommended amount in the documentation is 1 per CPU, which is what we had. So we had 10,000 tables set as the cache. We had 16 for the number of instances of that cache. We had tried making the open table cache lower and higher, down to like 500, up to 20,000, like everything in between. Didn't impact anything.
Okay.
But the number of instances apparently did, because when we dropped it from 16 to 4, everything was perfect. And it all worked magically and everything's fine. To change that is not dynamic. Open table cache is dynamic. Open table cache instances or table open cache instances is not dynamic. So you have to restart the server. We can actually do it without downtime now because Amazon launched this new thing, which is actually pretty cool, called blue-green migration. So you can basically build a clone of your environment and then it'll just DNS switch over when you want, and the clone can have different parameters set. So we were able to do it. It just costs money, but it doesn't cost downtime. So we were able to do it with no downtime. But it was annoying. And it's something I didn't change initially because it was annoying and the doc said you shouldn't really have to. We were set up appropriately. But MySQL docs, whatever, nobody cares. So change this and memory's a flat line. Server's super stable. Everybody's happy. Everything's fast. Everything's wonderful.
So how in the world did you find this? Was this Percona? Had they seen this before?
Yes,
or was this
Percona.
Just like
no, amazing. They hadn't seen it before. So the good news is,
wow, good for them.
It was Percona. After paying them lots of money, they did find it, which is good. And yeah, he just taught us change after like several. I mean, we had been working with them for several weeks because the way they do it is like 4-hour chunks over different days spread out. It's not like the guy just sits there with you for 2 weeks straight. Like it's all spread out, which I guess makes sense because sometimes you're changing something and then you're going to wait and see 2 days what happens, right? Yeah. So like they spread out when the guy actually works on your project. The old guess and check
method, huh?
Right? Yeah. So anyway, he had us do this, and we did it over. It was a pretty good time for downtime if we were going to have any, which we didn't, but it was over Christmas or something like that, or whatever. Anyway, we switched it over and it worked. So yeah, it was the guy's recommendation. I had seen this. It is the only setting in the entire MySQL configuration documentation that even talks about memory usage and that this setting can impact memory usage.
Yeah,
so that is a little hint there.
Yeah.
But so anyway, so it fixed it.
Brutal.
And we're back online.
So you're back online and you're migrating to single store? Is this what I'm hearing?
No, we're not migrating to single store. So I haven't talked about this on here much yet, but yeah, next generation HelpSpot, which is going to be a clean slate, will use single store.
Ground up rewrite?
ground up rewrites.
Oh, gotta cover that one day.
Yeah, we'll be talking more about that, I'm sure, over time. It's gonna take like a year, so it's it'll be sprinkled in as I hit stuff, and we'll go into it more. But we're gonna pull a page out of the DHH playbook, which is
Ian.
I know it's crazy talk. Existing customers, which are on HelpSpot 5, they can stay on there forever if they want to. So like we'll keep that stack up that has this existing MySQL issue, like whatever. That stack can just stay up, they can stay on there. I think a lot of them will eventually want to move to the new version, and so we'll have a way to do that, of course. But this way it also frees us up to do some different things, because it's just like a lot we've learned in 20 years. And
different product at that point.
Yeah, I want stuff to work differently than it did in the current HelpSpot. And so this way there's a little bit less pressure there. It's like, I think it's better this way, but if you don't like it or you don't want to relearn it and you're very happy with current HelpSpot, then you can just stay on current HelpSpot and you don't have to change at all, and that's fine. But if you want to change, then if you like these new ideas, then we have the new platform that implements those. So yeah,
man, that's crazy that you love DHH so much now. That's wild.
So he has some good ideas. Not all his ideas are bad.
That's how interesting.
So we'll see how that goes. That'll be a whole interesting thing.
That's a big move. Not only a ground up rewrite, but a different database technology.
Yeah, a whole different database structure too, because current, I think we talked about this before, but we have a database per tenant now, and it'll be more traditional
centralized
IDs, single tables.
Great.
So that'll be a whole thing. I mean, a single store does like shard it and all that stuff for you, so it's a little bit kind of like the current setup in some ways, but it's managed by the database platform instead of by us.
And if you use that single store Laravel driver, you'll be using my handiwork. I wrote that.
I do use it. So you have to use it. It's spectacular. It's excellent work on your part. It's got everything you need in there. It's so good. Hopefully I think somebody's still maintaining it. I don't think it's you though.
Sure as heck is not me. Let's just make sure that's on the record. In case Holly is listening. I haven't touched that since I got hired by PlanetScale. That is for sure.
Yeah, it's true. I guess we're in a little bit of a conflict of interest zone potentially.
I think so. Yeah.
I don't know. Is that really true though? It's sort of true. So all right, I had this on the list of things to talk about, and I took it off, but I'm gonna put it back on. If we cannot talk about it, if it's
I reserve the right. I don't know what's coming, but I reserve the right.
Reserve the right. But the PlanetScale pricing page, to me, is very, very bad. It's a bad pricing page.
Great feedback. Tell me, what do you see? PlanetScale.com.
Because when I go, because it's like what we're talking about now. It's like, oh, you're using single store, and like to me, the PlanetScale pricing page, it's telling you that it's not for big use cases. Like if you have a billion rows, don't come here, because like the top tier is $39, right? And like you can make it go up to $9.99, and even then you're only getting 8 CPUs and 30 gigs of RAM. It just feels very focused on the like side project, small projects,
really
startup.
Interesting.
It doesn't speak to me that like this is where you want your big heavy enterprise use cases
because of the pricing.
I mean, the maximum you can even define is $9.99. It's like, I mean, nobody spends $9.99 on a database like an enterprise scale, right? Like that's like very small amount of money. So,
and our enterprise customers don't spend that, by the way.
Of course, I know there's the custom pricing, right? And you can go talk to enterprise. And I'm a little bit more in the middle, because it's like we have an enterprise use case in terms of quantity of data to some degree, but we're a very tiny company, so it's a little bit. I'm the founder, so I'm looking at it like, what can I see on this pricing page versus like a middle manager or some other company that's like, oh yeah, contact them for enterprise support, and I'm sure they'll go into it. And I know PlanetScale does all this stuff, so I'm not even saying for me, because I know that it's technically capable of a large project.
But totally.
I feel like this doesn't convey that. Like if you go to the single store pricing page,
let's see that.
It's like, I mean, it's not as nice a pricing page as this. So this pricing page is definitely a nicer pricing page, right? But it's hey, you want terabytes of memory? Sure, we can do terabytes of memory, like whatever you want.
All right, so I'm looking at cloud. You're not doing self-managed. You're doing cloud.
Yeah, we're doing cloud. I mean, it is kind of, I do have a potentially self-managed use case, but I'm presuming I'm going to go cloud. But the top price model here has 24 terabytes of RAM. So,
Okay, I see. They have a want more detailed pricing and sizing.
Yeah, to go to the detailed pricing to break it all.
Yeah,
And I'm pretty sure that this is negotiable. So I don't think this
surely,
is,
yes.
when you're getting 24 terabytes of RAM, you
Yes,
probably
list
have some
prices like
negotiating
this
power.
are, yeah.
But it does convey
Okay.
a certain amount of like, hey, somebody's using this thing with 24 terabytes of memory. Like that's a pretty huge database, right? So
For sure, yeah.
and basically infinite storage and
Yeah.
3,000 CPUs, right? So that is conveying that like you want a sharded, you need a sharded large scale database. Yes, this is what we do here.
Good Lord, they $1,200 per hour.
It's a little pricey at the top end.
S384. Well, I have no idea. Like at this resources, we may charge something similar, but just seeing $1,200 per hour is like, good God.
It's a little pricey. I'm hoping that's why I'm gotta watch the size of my columns here. I can't be like,
yes, exactly right. You gotta keep your enums. You gotta keep your enums small.
Keep my enums in line. But anyway,
that's interesting. So what you're saying, if I can repeat it back to you, is that the way that our pricing page is signaling is that, well, to rephrase, our pricing page signals that we don't have many really, really large workloads because we max out at 8 vCPUs and 32 gigs of RAM in the like self-serve slider, scale your own thing.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. It just feels small.
Great.
You know, it just feels like this is for smaller things. Like I could have a smaller thing that fits in here and that makes sense, right? But like, is it actually for if I need a terabyte of memory? Like, it doesn't feel that way. Like, even though I'm sure it can do it because I know you and I know the company more than the average person, but I'm just saying, like, that's what strikes me when you see like 0, 29, 39. Like, that's what you see on the pricing page.
Right.
It's like, again, for some customers, that's what they want to see. It's like, oh, great, this is like less expensive than Amazon or equivalent. I don't know, you know, it's a little hard to compare apple to apples, but it's like reasonable. But if I have a bigger project, I don't know.
Yeah.
It kind of feels like maybe it's not set up for that. So that's
that's great. Yeah, that's great. That's really helpful.
We're not getting
fortunately, no, that's fine. Fortunately, pricing is not my bailiwick, and it's not my area of expertise. And so it's like, great. I love that feedback. I get to hand it on to somebody who will know what to do with it. That's perfect.
And maybe they've tested it all. It's like, no, we get twice the size with this one, right? Who knows? Like, just my off the cuff thing when it came up the other day and I was looking at it. But the single store is kind of interesting because, and we can talk about this more, and it'll be cool to get some comparison with what PlanetScale does. But there's some interesting things that the single store provides that's a little different than MySQL because it's not MySQL.
Because it's not. Yeah, that's what I will be most curious to hear about as you go on, is because it is, I think it's MemSQL is the old name of it. Because it is, old name. Yeah, not actually MySQL. I'll be curious if you run into any showstoppers or problems or something. Because it not in a derogatory way. It pretends to be MySQL, and so you're kind of lulled into thinking this is MySQL, right? Because it's like wire compatible. It's very compatible with MySQL, but it's not actually MySQL. Right. So that'll be
which is my hope.
Yeah.
But
that'll be good
some weird, interesting edge things because like so MySQL's full text index is not great.
Agreed.
I mean, it's fine, right, for small, but again, when you throw in hundreds of gigabytes, it doesn't really like that too much.
No.
Whereas like the single store full text, which is MySQL compatible in terms of syntax, is built on Lucene. So presumably it will be more performant. I'm sure it will have its own little things, but I'm hoping it's more performant since it's actually based on Lucene, which is what even Elasticsearch is based. Everything's based on top of Lucene. So will it be better? I don't know. So far it's fine, but I haven't put 200 million rows in there either. So we will see. So I'm gonna that's actually in my app service provider. Nobody even brought up that I had to build a little
I saw it.
Single store search engine.
Oh, I definitely saw it. Yeah.
So
I saw that.
Yeah, so like, will we be able to push that really far, which is my hope, or will it be like, no, we have to like offload this to a dedicated search service at some point or whatever? Which I would really like to avoid.
Search, whatever it is.
No, that thing definitely can't handle it. That thing is like
I guess that's true. It's a little hobby
That
for
thing's
your
not
scale,
built.
huh?
It's not built for any real data amounts. Like as soon as you get to like even like 10 or 20 gigs of data, like the index is like 200 gigs or something, and like
Holy.
yeah, it's not built for substantial workloads. It's for like
Oh, that sucks.
e-commerce sites and things like that. But yeah, it's not really built for heavy lifting of terabytes
And
of data.
Algolia is just prohibitively expensive at that.
I like
phase.
Algolia. Yeah, I would love to use Algolia.
Great product,
but
yeah.
it's insane. It's like $1 zillion for yeah. I don't know how anybody uses it. Again, it's like if I have an e-commerce platform, fine. It's like here's my 1,000 products, and and that could maybe work. But
we used it at Resolute at the property tax firm. I implemented it, and we paid handsomely. But at that stage, handsomely is like what, $200 a month.
Yeah, I mean,
and so for us, handsome is like, that's a lot of money, but it's world class, and like we don't have that much data, and so I wonder. God, I don't know. Yeah, they're prohibitively expensive once you get too far.
It's great. I mean, $2,000 a month, I would be like, yeah, great, let's do it. But like, it's not going to be anywhere near that. At least last time I looked, which was only a few months back.
You should call them. They do like I
guess I could.
This enterprise pricing it's just like it's totally made up.
It could be. It does actually seem like a little bit. It's sort of interesting. They do have a little bit. Even this pricing looks a little different than last I looked. It's 50 cents per 100,000.
Kind of a goofy looking
records.
page.
Yeah, it's a little tricky to follow. I should give them another look just in case, but I think it does get to be pretty. Yeah, it's like 40 cents per. Oh yeah, there you go. See, it's like the baseline's fine, but then it's 40 cents per 1,000 records. I mean, we have customers who add 1,000 records a day or more. Like. So
and at that point you really have to be careful what you're running through Scout, like what your Laravel Scout, what you're indexing, because you're just going to end up getting totally hosed on pricing if you do that. With
that, I'm trying to be careful anyway. I'm trying to really index just what has to be indexed. It's sort of weird. We get in this weird. This is a whole other thing we can talk about at some point. But like when you have a help desk ticket, like I'm sort of tempted to just index the initial request and the solving request, and not the like 30 emails in between, which are just kind of full with a bunch of BS. In current HelpSpot, it's all indexed. But how often are people really searching for the 10th email in a thread from 4 years ago? Like, not that often.
From 4 years ago, not that often. You know? Like, but from 6 months ago, maybe.
I know. And then you could get into the game of like, well, do we have like a hot table with like more recent data, but then we drop it off over time, like. So it gets complicated, but so default, I would like to just shove everything in there because that's simpler. But yeah, we'll see. It might not be optimal scale wise. Lots to talk about there. Well, a lot of stuff to talk about there.
That's good content. I'm excited for that.
Yeah. Anything else going on we need to cover?
I don't think so. Gonna go get the keys and go take a picture and start this whole, PlanetScale Studios era.
I'm excited. All right, man. We'll have fun with that. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Good to be back on the mic. Check us out at mostlytechnical.com, mostlytechpod on Twitter. We'll be posting up, I'm sure, video snippets and all that. And then mostlytechnicalpodcast at Gmail. You can email us, and we're starting fresh. We're checking New Year.
This year we'll read them.
Well, we always read them, but we've addressed them before. But this last one is too big a gap. Like everything's from like I can't get into like DHH and once again. We covered that enough. Like we can't go back to that stuff. So, all right, thanks, man. Have a good one.
All right, see ya.
Bye.